My name's Rod Martin, and along with Steve Burge, who's over there. Steve is the owner and president of OS Training. I'm the director of online training at OS Training. And this is the beginner track. And when we say beginner track, we're going to start at the absolute beginning this morning. So you don't need to worry that if you don't know any Drupal, this is the place for you. If you're an expert, this is probably going to be the most boring thing you've ever heard in your life. So not to worry, though. This is me. My Twitter handle is I'm Rod Martin, and my email address is rod@ostraining. And feel free to follow me on Twitter or email us after the event. Steve will give his information when he introduces himself in a little bit. We're really glad to be here today. OS Training specializes in beginner and intermediate level training for Drupal, WordPress, and Joomla. And this is really exciting for us to be in Florida. I've been down since Monday. Went to the beach on both coasts. You can't beat it. I mean, it's great. How many are not from here, not from around here? Okay, a few of you. Stick around for a week. You'll have a great time. All right, well, if you've ever messed with Drupal at all, you know that Drupal is a little bit tough. Somebody has depicted the learning curve for Drupal this way. If this is the learning curve for ModX, WordPress, and Joomla, this is the learning curve for Drupal. And so we've got, bodies falling off cliffs, bulldozers, spears in the ground. It's probably not that far from the truth once you get beyond the basics. Don't worry, none of you will go and commit hara-kiri at the end of the day, I promise. Because hopefully we're going to get you a little bit up this curve this morning and this afternoon, so at least you'll know the basics and the fundamentals of Drupal. And I heard somebody say, and I hope this is true, I've got a site to build, so I'm hoping to get a lot today. Well, that's the purpose of our day together. We won't be able to do in one day all the things you need to know to build a site, but after today, you should have enough foundational knowledge in order to go and start building and then hopefully have the wherewithal and the skill set to go and find the knowledge that you need. And that's our goal for today. Well, Drupal is a content management system. It was started by Dries, who was a student at the University of Belgium in around 2000. I wrote a CMS in 2000. You've never heard of it. Nobody has. It was pretty much one of those proprietary CMSs for the place I was working at the time. Mine was used for about 4 years, I think, and has gone the way of the PHP dodo bird. This is Dries at Drupal Con in London, and that's a picture of Drupal Con Chicago. Of course, Drupal Con Portland is coming up, and if you want to enjoy a week in Portland with other people like yourselves, Drupal Con is a fantastic event every year. Well, a content management system is a software application that makes it possible for the average person to maintain your website. And that's really key. When you have a Drupal site built for you, you don't need to know HTML, you don't need to know PHP, MySQL, or jQuery, or any of those other languages, terms, and foreign expressions. Really, all you need is to be able to type and click. And that's the beauty of a content management system. How many of you have done any web design in HTML? I'm old, so Dreamweaver, front page 97, anybody? Okay, you're probably not willing to admit it if you did, but that's where I started, way back when in front page 97. The web has come a long, long way, thankfully. And so let me explain a content management system from kind of the 30,000 foot level. It splits it kind of into three places. The content, which is your writing, your HTML, any editing you do. When you insert an image, the code that goes and gets that image is inserted here. That's all stored in a database. Generally speaking, Drupal uses a MySQL database. And so it's completely separate. It's not like you have 1,000 pages in your website, so you have 1,000 pages on your desktop. And if you want to change your logo, you have to go into all 1,000 pages, update the logo, and then upload those to your site. That's not the way it is anymore. When I change an article or a content item or a node in Drupal speak on my Drupal site, it's instantaneous and it's stored in a database. I don't have to upload anything. The second part of a content management system is the design. And in Drupal, we call that a theme. This is completely separate from your content. So you're not creating these HTML files on your desktop anymore. You've got your Drupal site set up. The content is loaded as you type in the little window and stored in a database. And your theme, or the layout, the design, the logo, the main images of your site are all stored in a Drupal theme. And that's a series of files and folders inside the Drupal file structure. And so the beauty of this is, if I want to change the logo on my site, I upload the logo in one place, tell Drupal this is the logo that I want to use, and instantly all of my pages are changed. So if I have 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 nodes or pages on my site, it doesn't matter. The logo is there the very next time somebody comes to look at that page. If I have a graphic in the footer and I put that in my theme, instantly the entire website is updated. And that's really awesome. I can't tell you how many hours I spent on a 14.4, 28.8, and 56K modem when I lived up in the boonies in Northern Ontario, uploading dozens and dozens of files to the website. It was mind-numbing. With Drupal, click of a button and it's done. The third part of this is the technical design, and for us that's Drupal. This is the CMS, as it were, the platform, the PHP, database access, the core functionality. I can't tell you how long it takes to write the code to do, say, just user login. It's difficult. It's hundreds of lines of code because you've got to do error checking, you've got to do database back and forth and stuff. Well, that's something that's built into Drupal. You don't ever have to do that. And so when somebody comes to your website, in the strictest sense, there are no web pages in a content management site. There are no pages in your Drupal site. There's no real content. There's no real physical HTML pages. They don't exist until somebody goes to your site and says, hey, I want to read the About Me page for this guy. Well, the browser comes in and says, Drupal says, oh, they want the content that's in that node. They want that theme applied to it. And so I'm going to assemble all of that in about, I don't know, 2/100ths of a second and start pushing that back out to the web. Now, Drupal has some pretty advanced caching and things like that, and you need to do that on a large site. But in its raw essence, that's what Drupal does. And so when you save a new article or a new node, it's instantly on the site the moment it's published. It's instantly there. Somebody can find it if you've got a menu to it, or somebody searches for it pretty quickly. So that's how a content management system works. That's a really oversimplification. But that's kind of the way it works, and it's 1,000 times better than the way we used to do it. Drupal is free. How is that possible? Well, Drupal is run by volunteers, and you'll see some of them around today. People who either work in Drupal shops or have jobs as web designers and contribute to the community. You'll hear a lot about community when you talk to people about Drupal, and it's a really important part of what Drupal is. Volunteers generate code, generate modules, generate updates, and contribute them to the community. The community then makes sure that they work properly, vets everything, and then says this is ready to go. So when you go to Drupal.org and want to download a new feature, which is a module, you'll go and get something that a volunteer has written. Nobody in Drupal is paid to contribute to the core. When you participate in the community, you'll never get paid for it unless your boss pays you. But it's part of how Drupal works, and it's part of how Drupal grows. Drupal is free. I don't know if you've ever paid for a Drupal site, but you'll know quickly that Drupal sites are not free. They can be quite costly, but there's a good reason for that. Drupal's still led by its founder. He owns the company called Acquia, and Acquia runs much of Drupal's product, services, and support. I'm going to show you one in just a few moments. That's their logo, and their website is acquia.com. Drupal is a misspelling of the word drop in Dutch. This is one of those who cares slides, but we put it up there anyway because it explains many of the logos. Who uses Drupal? Well, probably the most famous Drupal site now is the White House. Department of Commerce, Department of Education uses Drupal. The Grammy Awards, Christina Aguilera, Major League Soccer. I could go on and on. This is MTV UK. I use Drupal. I have a website called navigatetomorrow.com. It's my design company that I had before I joined OS training full time, and I've kept it up so we can use it when I do training. We go to my site at the end of the day, tear it to shreds, play with it, look and see what's going on, and there's no reason why you can't use Drupal 2, and that's the point of the day. All right, no false promises. Again, beyond the basics, we've got this learning curve. In our courses, we say that we'll get you to basically where that spear is sticking up out of the ground. And honestly, you know what? You can build complete sites if you get there. It's when you want to start doing custom work that it gets really scary. If you want to contribute a module or a new theme to Drupal, then you got to start learning some things. But you'll be able to build a Drupal site with a basic set of knowledge, and it's the things we're going to talk about today. Drupal is quicker than hand coding a site. I promise you, it is. It's cheaper. In my last corporate gig, we paid $25,000 for the CMS alone. We spent a year with an engineer and a half developing it, so another $85,000, $100,000. And the day we went live with it, they went belly up. Was my boss ticked off, as you can imagine. We used it I think we used it for about 2 years and ditched it because, again, it wasn't being maintained anymore. That's not going to happen with Drupal. It's not going to happen in open source. And so you have not just one company to rely on, even though the cost of getting a site built, especially an advanced site built, can be tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. You'll have the knowledge that there are thousands of people who can help you and work on your site, not just one company that might go bankrupt tomorrow. And so that's really good news. Lots of options, but sometimes some custom work is needed. I've got a slide to talk about that in just a moment. Okay, this is a Drupal camp, so I probably should have taken this slide out, but in fairness, I want to be honest with you. Drupal shouldn't probably be your first choice for every site. If you want to run a simple blog, and I maintain 3 or 4 blogs right now, they're all WordPress, because that's what WordPress does. Can you run a blog on Drupal? Absolutely. Does it run well on Drupal? Absolutely. Is it the best thing? Is it the easiest thing for a simple blog? Probably not. Joomla kind of fits in the middle. Joomla is probably more robust than WordPress. It's easier to use than Drupal, but has a lot less flexibility. It doesn't do certain things anywhere near as well as Drupal. For me, the breaking point here is, do I need content types? Do I have different kind of information, and do I need to put my content in fields? In other words, do I need to split my content up so I can grab, say, the date a movie was released, separate from the short summary of the movie? If I have to do that, then it's Drupal. If I can throw everything in the body of an article, then fine, maybe Joomla is fine. Now, there's pluses and minuses to all of that, and there's caveats to all of that. But that's kind of, for me, that's one of the things that I look to go, should this be a Drupal site? And honestly, most times, yeah, should be. Because those kinds of fields, as Steve is going to point out in a little bit, are really, really important. So this is a kind of an analogy that I like to give. If you were building a website made out of Lego and your website was an airplane, well, WordPress would give you a nice P-51 or a nice PT-17 biplane from about World War I, World War II era. Joomla could build you a pretty nice Lego Learjet. Lots of power, lots of extensibility, lots of goodness in it, pretty comfortable, pretty luxurious. But Drupal comes along and says, I don't care what kind of plane you're trying to build. There's the blocks, build what you want. And that's really the key difference between the three. You've got absolute, complete control over what Drupal can do for you, because it's completely, and it was designed to be very extensible, very flexible. And that's kind of a great analogy, so think of it that way. We teach Drupal 7, obviously. Drupal 5 is long gone. Drupal 6 was launched in 2008. Most sites that are in Drupal 6 have been or are being migrated to 7. Some people are waiting to go from 6 to 8, which in my mind will be a great nightmare. And someone will get paid a lot of money to do that. Drupal 7 was launched in 2011. It's very stable. There are thousands of modules now, thousands of themes. If I'm starting to build a site today, I'm obviously going to use Drupal 7. I could wait for 8, but honestly, I could be waiting 12, 18 months to get my site started. Drupal 8 is going to be awesome, but we're going to talk about 7 today. All right, you're beginners, so I want to kind of talk about, let's get you started. There are 4 basic ways to install Drupal. How many of you have web hosting at like Bluehost, HostGator, HostMonster, DreamHost? Okay, most of those hosting services, most of your hosting services for $3-4 a month give you a one-click automatic install. It used to be Fantastico. I know HostGator and DreamHost have moved to some other program, but if you go into your control panel, most often it's called cPanel, you'll see one-click installs, and you'll be able to click a button and a Drupal site will magically appear for you. All right, that's okay to practice and to play with. It works very well, but hosting a larger Drupal site, you probably ought to never want to do that on shared hosting. I have the word Pantheon here at the bottom. I'm not paid. We don't get a kickback from anybody for any of this, but I really like Pantheon. Getpantheon.com is the URL, and what they do is they have a setup where you can build sites for free. You don't pay for them until you go live. Once you go live, it's $25 for a small site, $100 a month for a small business site, and of course it goes up exponentially from there. But for Drupal hosting, that gives you, here it is, a test server, development server, and a live server for free. And so you can have a live site and do development and testing on 2 different setups. And what they've done is they've created a system where you just click a button and what you've tested goes up to live, or you can pull from live and go down to development, work on it, push it back to live, just clicking buttons. For people who are site builders and not geeky, really geeky site builders who get into Drush and all those other kinds of things, Pantheon is awesome. It's Drupal specific hosting, and I met them in London. The guys are great. The people seem to be really good. They've worked out some of the kinks they had earlier on. And so I highly recommend getpantheon.com. And like I said, it's free until you go live. The second way is manually, and you can have a web host somewhere, manually upload the files, manually create the database in PHPMyAdmin, manually run the installation program. It's not hard. You just have to make sure that the file structure is in your public HTML, and you can either upload the zip file and unzip it there if you're in cPanel, and then you'll need to create a database in PHPMyAdmin. We have some tutorials on our website about that, and there's dozens of tutorials on how to do that out there on the web. And it's not what we recommend for beginners, because unless you're familiar with FTP and PHPMyAdmin and all those things, it gets kind of confusing. A third way is in the cloud. Drupal Gardens, you can get started for free in about 15 minutes. You'll have a site up, and it's free for 30 days. 30 days sounds like a long time, but trust me, in building a Drupal site, is 30 days a long time? No, not at all. So you get it for free for 30 days. Now, the one neat thing that I like about Drupal Gardens is they have this neat drag and drop interface for building your theme, which you can export and take with you. So for 30 days, you get it for free. You can build your theme, export it, take it with you, and do what you want. Lots of free options here in Drupal land. And that is, of course, high-end Drupal hosting. It's owned by Acquia, just so you know. And again, a lot of people choose that option. The fourth way to install Drupal for beginners is twofold here. Installation number 4 is on your desktop, and this is what we recommend. This is how we do all of our training. Actually, we recommend 2 ways. Your own web host somewhere, which is usually the better way to actually develop a site. But if you're just playing around, this is awesome. So there are 2 ways to do this. You can either use MAMP or WAMP, and MAMP is Mac, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, or WAMP is Windows, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, and just Google them. They'll come right up. You do not need to get the pro version of MAMP. Don't waste your money. This sets up a local host environment. So basically, you've got an Apache server, MySQL database, and PHP engine right on your desktop. And I'm going to show you how that works in just a minute. So Windows or Mac works great. Yes, ma'am?
Is there any reason to not use
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I meant to add that. I'm just not a fan of XAMPP. Is it XAMPP, XAMPP? I don't know. It's either way. XAMPP? Is that it? Okay. I apologize. I should have put that on the screen. No, there's no reason not to use that. It works just fine. Okay? So if you're more of that flavor of a fan, absolutely. This is, again, a pretty manual way to do this. You have to manually set up the server. You have to manually install Drupal. You have to manually set up the database and run the installation. If you don't feel comfortable with that, I'd love to show you what I think is the easiest way to do it, and it's how we do it all of our training as well. People seem to like this. It's really, really simple. It's the Dev Desktop from Acquia. How many of you have ever seen this, used it, tried it? Okay, about a third of you. Great. The Dev Desktop makes getting your Drupal website up and running really, really easy. So I'm going to do a quick demo of that in just a moment. Basically you download it, it's free. You install it on your Mac or your PC. You run the installation, and boom, you've got a fully functional Drupal website waiting for you to click on Go to My Site. And it's great, it's free, and you can develop as many sites as you want on it. There are some bugs in it, so when you get a bunch of errors when you start to install modules and themes, don't worry. It's just a little bit of a, it thinks that there's a permissions problem, but there isn't. So if you're going to do this, just kind of make a note of this in your mind. When you get those errors, just go back 2 screens using your back button in your browser and repeat the process, install it again, and it's fine. That's generally what I do. It takes a couple extra clicks. I've told them about it, and I don't know why they don't fix it. Maybe they will. So those are 4 ways to get started. If you're brand new to Drupal, this is the one I recommend. It's the easiest, quickest way, and you can spin up hundreds of sites using Acquia's Dev Desktop. Practice, play, hack, trash, mess up, and when you're wrecked it, well, you just go click and go start a new site, and boom, you've got a new site in about a minute and a half. So very, very easy to use. And I'm going to demo that in just a moment. All right, one of the key things, or I think the very biggest key thing in getting started in site building for Drupal, and that's kind of what we're talking about in this introduction today, site building. How do I build my site? The very first thing you have to worry about, the key thing, is this word called planning. Somebody once said, if my website is going to take me a year to build, I'm going to spend 6 months of it in planning. And that's probably not far from the truth. And for reasons that Steve and I are going to kind of focus on all through the day, but especially in the content type area, you want to get that stuff planned properly the first time. You can fix it later. It just gets harder and harder the further you get. We're going to show you some tricks for that as we go through the day as well. But this is key. And the planning process is, website planning can take on a number of different ways. My favorite is a book by Kelly Gatto called Web Redesign 2.0. It's an older book now, but it's still really, really good, and it applies well to the Drupal world. So let me suggest that if you don't do planning properly, you could end up looking like this guy.
Being married is a big step in your life, and yeah, it's really a great thing. For us, it worked out good at the time when we got married. I was kind of pressured into it, but I'm glad I did now. And getting married was a good. Well, I was pressured into getting married. What? Well, I didn't mean to bring up it. I'm just saying it was a tough time. I didn't really want to get married at the time. What?
I can't believe that!
No, man. I didn't mean it. I love you, but you guys, listen, good luck with your marriage.
Good luck with your marriage, dude. Yeah, that's from America's Funniest Home Videos. I have no clue if that guy is still married or not. I highly doubt it by now. But that's what your life is going to be like if you don't plan. Obviously, he didn't plan very well what he was going to say. So We're not going to give you a lot of guidance on the planning steps today, just simply because this is an introduction to Drupal, but just kind of tuck it in the back of your mind that that planning that we're going to talk about throughout the day is pretty critical. And here's a quick image that kind of goes through the Drupal site workflow. Planning is first. It's pretty critical, again, that you get that stage at least started and well done before you even start your Drupal site. Installation is next, obviously. Content types, fields, and content get your information into your website. And in the process of that, you're adding all kinds of modules as you go. Modules are features. And we're going to cover all of this basically today as we go. We're not going to talk about people today. We don't have enough sessions. So I'm talking about the introduction, installation. Steve is going to talk about content types, fields, and adding content. I'm going to talk about theming, and in the schedule for the day, theming somehow got put before a little early. So we're going to stick with the schedule, but normally theming comes a little bit later, and I'll explain that when we get there. Once we have our content in, views, panels, and display suite gets our content out through design and design modules. So content goes in, content comes out, and then a theme is applied to it so the website looks great. Are we going to make these slides? We can make these slides available, right? We'll make these slides available by the end of the day, and we'll give you a link at the end of the day for all of the entire day's worth of slides. Actually, this is really the only presentation that has a lot of slides. Most of the rest of the day is actually going to be hands-on on Drupal. You know, I have a whiteboard in my office. Kind of looks like this one. Actually, I painted my wall with whiteboard paint. It's really cool. So when you're building a Drupal site, you're thinking about the planning stage. I don't use wireframes. I'm old. I've never been able to kind of get a handle on those. I'm the kind of guy that does this. I sketch everything on a whiteboard with Post-it notes. And so if I'm talking to a client or working through my own site like this, this is what my whiteboard looks like. I define my content types. I talk about how they interact together, just very briefly sketching it out. Related content, start to sketch out how those are going to look, the kind of the functionality that I need, the formatting that I need, and the different layouts and views that I need of the content. And so it kind of looks like this as a process. This is very similar to the chart I just showed you. Planning and functionality, content, display and organization. So content in through content types, fields, taxonomy, and adding content. Then display and organization by views and panels. Site structure and layout through menus. Functionality and any other interaction that I need, whether that's people-based or functionality-based. How the site's going to look is the theme layer. And then finally, how am I going to maintain my site? And this is something that sometimes we forget about, and we're actually not going to talk about today because it really goes beyond the scope of a beginner class. But the functionality of, the maintenance of your website is something you have to plan for as well. At Drupal Con London, which was in August of 2011, they did a survey of people who build Drupal sites. And this is really important. 80% of the typical Drupal site is done through site building. And what we mean by site building is what we're going to show you today. Essentially taking Drupal as it comes, adding features through modules, adding a theme that's been written for us, and creating a site. You can do that. The typical Drupal site, however, has about 20% custom code. And this is one of the reasons Drupal sites cost a bit extra. Because when you have custom code, it gets expensive because those are the guys that are at the top of the heap who are pushing everybody else off the mountain. Those are the guys that know how to do that. And it costs quite a bit of money sometimes depending on your website. Now, I want to assure you that unless you're building a fairly complex site, you can do an awful lot without custom code. If you go to navigatetomorrow.com at some point, that's a Drupal 7 site. It's, again, my site. It's completely done with off-the-shelf site building tools. And it's not sophisticated. It's designed so that at the end of our 2-day training, we can go in and rip it apart and see how it was built. But at the end of a couple of days of Drupal training, you can build a site like that really well. Just kind of keep that in mind as you start to think through. because unless your site does get pretty advanced, you can get pretty far with just site building tools. All right, I'm going to stop for a minute. Any questions on what we've talked about? And then I want to show you how to install Acquia's Dev Desktop. Questions? I know this is all background and intro. Some of you probably know all this, but it's helpful maybe to get that big picture. All right. Well.
I had one question.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
As I was trying to think of it, when you talked about the migration from one version of it to the next, is that like, is there again a learning curve for that?
Yes.
Is there a lot to do if
Yes.
you wanted to update some of the sites?
The question is, just for the video, the question is migration a big deal? The answer is yes. Going from 6 to 7 is, there's a wonderful module called Backup and Migrate, and there's a whole set of tools that go with the migration module. If you go to blip.tv/DrupalCon, these are all of the DrupalCon sessions from London, Germany, and maybe Sydney. No, not Sydney. Just London and Germany. There's 163 sessions from DrupalCon. If you click on there and look through, there is a wonderful hour-long tutorial on migrating your Drupal site. It is not easy, not for the faint of heart, and if you're new to Drupal, probably not something you should try yourself. Certainly not without backing up a billion times. I'm exaggerating, of course, but having backups and doing it on a test server, not your live server, okay? But there's companies that's what they do. They just do migrations because they're very complex. Now, if your site's like my Navigate Tomorrow site, nah, it's not a big deal. We don't have any users. We've got 6 content types, about 150 nodes, all off-the-shelf modules. Migrating that site would be pretty easy.
Yeah.
But migrating a bigger
You
site.
haven't done any yet, but now you're saying that, 8 is coming. And,
Right.
I would assume
We don't know what the migration path yet will be for 8. I imagine, hopefully, they'll be building some good tools for it because a lot of people will want to get to 8. It's going to be pretty cool. But just so you know, you can't migrate a site until the modules that you want are ready, which rarely happens the day a major release is made. So when Drupal 8 comes out, plan on waiting 6 months, maybe longer, till the modules are completely ready that you might want to use. So again, when I say it could be 18 months from now, it could be 18, it could be 2 years. We really don't have, it's probably less than that, but that's a good rule of thumb. Blip.tv/DrupalCon is just a wealth of information. And then if you go blip.tv/DrupalCon Denver, it's all of the episodes or all of the workshops from Denver. And they're all, I mean, none of the video is, you're not going to take any of these to the Academy Awards. Like, you're not going to take this one to the Academy Awards either. But they're incredibly helpful. The audio is good, so you can actually hear what the speaker says. And they're really, really helpful. Strongly recommend. I mean, there's 200 and almost 300 hours of Drupal instruction for free. And you didn't have to pay to go to Munich, London, or Denver. How cool is that? All right. If you wanted to set this up on your own and get your own system going, you would go to acquia.com/downloads, acquia.com/downloads, and get the Dev Desktop. Make sure you don't get Acquia Drupal. That's the core of Drupal, and that's not going to give you the local host environment that you need. So they've made this a lot smarter. It knows that I'm on a Mac, so I just click download, which I've already done. I don't want to take the time to do that. Download it to your system and install it like any other Windows or Mac program. It'll take you through a series of things. You say yes, 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 and about 3 or 4 minutes later, you get this. And this is the control panel for Acquia's Dev Desktop. It will set up one site for you, which is a blank Drupal site with a couple of extra modules installed. Chaos Tools is installed, Token, Path Auto, and a few others. But they set it up so you can start building a site right away. Once you have a site set up, let me just go to localhost and click Go to My Site. it's going to open up my browser and take me to a site. You know what? That's not what the site looks like right out of the box, so let's do this. I have a blank site set up. If I want to create a new site, I click on Settings, Sites, New, Florida. And if I want to customize all my details and account settings, I can do that, but I don't have to. Click OK. Put in your password. And about 30 to 60 seconds later, depending on the speed of your machine, you'll have a brand new Drupal site ready to go, set up with just a couple of things that I always turn off right away. So we'll just wait for that to run. It won't take long. Click on the one you want to go to and click Go To. It's going to open up your browser, and this is a brand new Acquia Drupal site ready to go. When you first set up Dev Desktop, it's going to ask you for a username and password. Honestly, I usually just use admin and admin. I can't forget that. And it's helpful. Now, you would never do that on a live server, right? Please. This is local host. Okay? How do I get hacked? How does my website get hacked? Oh, I don't know. How's it admin and admin go? You know, people laugh or people cry when their sites get hacked and your password was 1234, your dog's first name. I mean, come on. One thing I always do when I spin up a new Acquia Dev Desktop site is I get rid of this 30-day free trial message. And to do that, it's really simple. Click on Modules. These are all the built-in modules in Drupal are features. We have a whole session on that in just a bit. I'm just going to disable that quote-unquote feature real quickly. You'll notice here that one is grayed out because they're dependent on each other. So I'm just going to click there, scroll down, and click Save Configuration. Everything in Drupal is a web form. So I always have to submit the form to save anything. And now just by clicking and deselecting those two things when I go back home, that's gone, won't bother me anymore. And I've got a brand new Drupal site that I can start messing with, hacking, playing with, and working on and learning as I go. Yes?
So this Acquia Dev Desktop.
Yes.
This is something that is that you need to buy?
Nope. It's completely. The question was, is Acquia Dev Desktop free? Nope. If you go to acquia.com/downloads and click download, and of course yours is going to be, you're on a Mac, so it'll be DMG. It's going to ask you, please give us your name, give us your firstborn, give us your email address. Now you can just click the no thanks, give me my download link, and you don't have to submit any of that information. You can if you want, but they'll come after your firstborn. So. Kidding. For the video, I'm kidding. Just in case Dries is watching. We've got about 3 minutes for any other questions on this part, and we want to really honor the time frames today so you don't get tuckered out and brain dead by the end of the day. Any other?
How challenging is it to take it from desktop to?
Great question. How do I take it? The question is, how do I take it from desktop to a live server? The backup and migrate module is will back up your entire website, or Acquia gives us a wonderful little export tool, and that will export the entire Drupal installation, okay, not just the site files. You can click export. It will take the whole Drupal installation, your site files, and your database, and put it in a tar file. You can upload that tar file to your web server, grab the database, and install it manually via phpMyAdmin, and you're good to go. Again, don't use, if you're planning on putting it out to a live server, then I would use secure passwords from the get-go. If you're never going to put this up, if it's just a learning tool, it doesn't matter. But secure passwords are always smart. They just are. But the backup and migrate module or this export option. Sir? Okay. If you're going to... No. No. The question is, will the migration tool handle a different database in the back end? The answer, I believe, is no. This is a MySQLi database. So if you're going to use something different, like, I can never pronounce it right, Postreg or something like that, no. I don't believe... There might be an if there's an import tool from MySQLi to Postreg, I don't know. I'm not a database guy. Otherwise, no, it's going to be MySQL. So in that case, I would set up MAMP or WAMP or XAMPP and do it that way, rather than the Acquia Dev Desktop. And they're essentially the same thing, right? This is just kind of a one-click, no-brainer thing. What we're handing out is kind of the overview, a beginner's guide to Drupal, and we're going to cover today. So you won't need it throughout the day, but do we have more? More. I'll tell you what, if we don't have enough, come and give us your email. We'll send a PDF over to you. And wow, we brought tons. This is great. Good news.
I think everything got underestimated today.
I think it did.
Number of people attending.
All right, so if you need one, if you didn't get one and you want one, if you're willing to share, if there's 2 or 3 of you from the same home or business, otherwise, please email us and we'll make sure you get one. And there's a coupon on there, right, Steve? 20. What is it? Month free. Let me just talk about the coupon real quick, and then we'll be done. As I've mentioned a couple of times, and we're not here to sell you anything today, I promise. This will be the last time I talk about OS Training. OS Training is our company. We do Drupal and WordPress and Joomla training, as I mentioned. There's a coupon there for a month free at our site, and it's a month free. You can take all of our Drupal courses within a month if you're a go-getter. Once you register and log in, come to training, Drupal training, and then we have our beginner and intermediate class. The beginner class is essentially what we're doing today, only we take you through all of it and you actually do it. It's not like presentations like we're doing today. The intermediate class takes us a little bit further. We actually do we create imdb.com, path auto views, and then we have a bunch of modules, courses on specific modules that I think are really helpful. Brian Lewis from modulesonravel.com has graciously works with us in doing some of these courses. And most of the beginner and intermediate classes are about 4 to 5 hours each. The rest of these are well under an hour each. Some of them are a little longer, some of them are a little shorter. So you'll have access to that for a month, and we're happy to do that. You'll also have access to our support forums, so you'll be able to talk to us about your Drupal questions, and we're happy to answer those in the month that you have free as well. Okay? Guys, we're going to have a great day together. The goal here is for you to learn, for us to have fun, and walk out of here, hopefully, being a little bit more certain that you can build a Drupal site. And so that's what we're here for. And if you stick with us for the whole day, when you walk out the door, you'll have a good handle on that. All right? Have a great break. We'll see you back here in about 15 minutes.